you to our LinkedIn Guys Definitive Bootcamp. And I want to start by giving a little love where love is due. If you have yet to meet the amazing and talented Sandra, please send her some love in the chat. And you can do that with either words of praise, or if you're feeling a little tired after lunchtime, maybe just a strategic emoji to let her know that you appreciate her efforts. One thing I can tell you is when I was in your shoes, I had no clue how hard the Career Center was working for me every single day. But having worked at a Career Center myself, I now realize if you guys are really smart and really savvy, you're going to take advantage of the fact that Sandra and her team are there for you. So please, please, please send a little love in the chat and then reach out after the session. So thank you to Sandra. Okay, a little bit about your presenter today. So I got to tell you, if you are having any doubts right now about your ability to go from San Jose State all the way to the job of your dreams, whether it's tech or higher ed or automotive, just know I am living proof that almost anything is possible. I began my own career as a kindergarten teacher, as I was mentioning before, and I was able to transition over time to jobs at Google, to Apple, to Khan Academy, where I work today. And the way I was able to do that was based on some tricks I learned along the way from a company called LinkedIn. And for those who rated LinkedIn a 1 in the previous little exercise, just know it's totally fine to have no clue about LinkedIn yet, because by the end of this hour, you are going to be a total pro. What I learned inside LinkedIn is that the world of hiring is actually relatively simple, but it may be a little bit different than you expect. So what I want to share with you today are the same secrets I've been sharing with students around the world to help you land the job of your dreams. So again, it doesn't matter whether it's tech or education or somewhere else, you are absolutely in the right place. And I want to start with 3 core principles. The first of which is that I know that hiring can often feel like a black box. You spend all these hours working on your resume, you apply online, and then who knows what happens. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to peel back that screen so you can see the men and women behind the screen who are doing recruiting, who are doing hiring, and what drives their jobs. Because if you can understand their jobs, you could leverage those insights to get a great job of your own. And all I ask in return are 3 simple favors. Number 1, as a former teacher, I have to confess that old habits die hard. So yes, there will be pop quizzes, but no, they're not going to be painful. They're not going to be graded, just purely in the interest of learning. And then 2 and 3, I'd love to go way beyond quizzes and actually have you volunteer for live demos. That is so much more fun than a boring PowerPoint. And the same is true of asking questions on your side. If you ask questions, if you volunteer for those demos, guess what? I'm going to thank you with a free copy of my brand new LinkedIn book, which is currently the #1 career book on Amazon. And it's yours free just for putting yourself out there today. So with that in mind, let's start with some of these pop quizzes. And I want you to really understand who these recruiters are and what they're up against. So, how many resumes do you think the average recruiter at a company in America is juggling at any time? Is it as few as 100, as many as 10,000, or somewhere in between? So Harshini is saying C. Parnitha says B. Christine says, I want to say C. So Christine's tempted there. Marcel says B, C. Laura says B. Helen says B. So kind of a battle between the C's and the B's. And it turns out, sad to say for our recruiting friends, the answer is C. Check this out. The #1 HR organization in the world says the average recruiter tends to have about 40 roles at any time. Each role attracts 250 resumes. You do the math, and you can see we're talking about 5 digits worth of volume for the recruiters to juggle. Okay, so first insight, recruiters have a tough job. But what do they do about it? Well, the savvy recruiters out there say, you know what? I don't want to go through all these resumes. This is too painful. I'm just going to go on LinkedIn and I'm going to find candidates on my own. Why read all these resumes when I can go right to the perfect candidate? So what percentage of recruiters are only using LinkedIn to find candidates, not even worrying about other stuff? Is it A, B, or C? So Praneeth says B, Marcel says B, Saishri says B, Pranav says B, Ellen says B, Laura says B. Wow, the Spartan world is coalescing here, and the answer is indeed B. So while it's true that almost every recruiter uses LinkedIn a little bit, 2/3 of recruiters are basically only using LinkedIn. But even with LinkedIn by their side, how many seconds do you think a recruiter actually has to spend on a resume or a LinkedIn profile before they have to move on to the next candidate? Is it as few as 6 seconds, as many as 60, or somewhere in the middle? So Praneeth says B, Lizette says A, Marcel says B, Utsav says A, Archeli says A, Pranav says B. It's kind of a back and forth battle, and the answer is A. This is probably the most important slide in this whole presentation, because if you forget everything else, always remember that recruiters only have a few seconds to decide, is Christine in or is she out? Is Laura in or is she out? And so your challenge is, if recruiters have a hard job, can you make it easier for them to quickly identify that you're a perfect fit and to hire you? If you can do that, you're going to be well on your way. And so what I want to do now is I want you to go behind the scenes and imagine you're a recruiter. It could be at Google or Tesla or San Jose State or Stanford, any of the organizations you might want to work for someday. Here you are, a recruiter on LinkedIn. What's the first thing you're going to search for? Is it A, degree? Show me someone with a BA or a BS. Is it B, school? Show me someone from San Jose State or Santa Clara. Or is it C, job title? Show me a product manager, show me an accountant. So Saishri says C, Marcel says C, Helen says C, Pranav says C, Lizette says C, and you all have nailed it. At the end of the day, what a recruiter cares about most is, can you actually do the job? School is nice, degree is nice, but this is essential. And to prove it to you, let's now look at the most important screen in the entire hiring process, which is the one you see right now, LinkedIn Recruiter. Even though most job seekers don't know this exists, every single recruiter in the world is using this tool to find awesome talent. And as you guessed, they are coming in here not looking for generic candidates, like show me a generic Spartan, but specific talent. Can you be a project manager, a product manager, or a producer? And so, to Christine's point in the chat, you need to know how this screen works, because if you know that, you can make it work for you. And so, the first key rule is, do not be a generic candidate on LinkedIn. Student at San Jose State University, proud Spartan. Instead, be a student at San Jose State University who is going into project management or into automotive or into ed tech, because that lets recruiters know you are in the game and you are on their radar screen. So to get you there, let's start with this critical first step, which is finding your perfect role. Even if you're not sure where you belong or where your North Star is, I would love for you to raise your hand right now to volunteer to be a live participant. And if you raise your hand, not only will you help us all learn alongside you, but you'll also get a free copy of this book just for being especially brave today. So Angela, Arsheli, Arshini, who's going to be my first volunteer? Praneeth, you're amazing. Praneeth, feel free to unmute, turn on your webcam if you can. I would love to chat with you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How's it going?
Doing really well. Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, no worries.
And everyone, please give Praneeth lots of love in the chat, because it takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there. So Praneeth, tell me this. What have you already loved doing in your time at San Jose State? Tell me about maybe something you've done in class or in an internship that really made you excited and really happy in the kind of work that you were working on.
Okay, so I have taken up a course called Agile Systems Engineering.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it's a really good experience where you have, like hands-on experience about going about building a product. You take up various roles as Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developer. You brainstorm, try to build a product, coming up with different ideas, thinking from a customer's perspective, a business perspective. So I felt that it was very effective, or rather, a really good outcome of that would help me in finding suitable roles and experience
I
studying that.
love that. And so that's such a great experience to build on, because you discovered that you love building stuff from scratch.
Yes.
Actually taking an idea and turning it into reality.
Perfect. Yes. That's the professor is helping us do that. We have our weekly reviews with the prof. It's really helpful.
Oh, I love that. And so Praneeth, tell me this. What kind of job do you think would be a good fit for you based on that experience you're having.
Okay, something like a product manager or a project manager in a product role.
Oh, I love that. And Praneeth, tell me this. Do you already know everything there is to know about being a product manager? What it feels like, what they work on all day? Do you already have that insight?
Yes, I do to an extent, but since I don't have the corporate experience in product to be in specific, I might not know the 100% of things, but like, let's say I might know the majority of things right now.
Okay, so that's a great start. But what if you want to know everything? Who would you want to talk to, Praneeth, that could really give you a deep dive into that role?
Yeah, someone's already working in that role. Like someone I know is already working in that role would help me, uh, or probably searching up, reading up on the internet about people who've written their experiences. Probably these two things could help me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can definitely do what I did when I was in school, which is go on Google and search for things, and that's good. But who better to learn from than people who are on the inside right away? And here is the most powerful thing that you have going for you as a San Jose State Spartan is you have the ability to come onto LinkedIn and find with a couple of clicks of your mouse, literally hundreds of thousands of other Spartans you can learn from. Check this out, 275,000 alumni.
Mhm.
This is the product that I worked on when I was at LinkedIn. So I'm a little bit biased about it, but I'm
Okay.
sharing it in the chat because I want you and all your classmates to bookmark it. It is that powerful. And look what you
Okay.
can do, Praneeth. You can say, you know what? That's too many people to look through.
Mhm.
I want to focus on people who are in product management. So I come over here and I click on product management.
Okay.
Now I have a much better list of about 2,500. Now look at these companies here, Praneeth. Cisco, Google, Applied Materials, Oracle, Amazon, Intel, Meta, Salesforce. Of those firms,
Mhm.
are there any ones that are especially interesting to you?
Oh, yes.
Which ones?
Okay, probably Apple.
Beautiful. And I actually did my internship at Apple, so I can tell you it's a really interesting place. But better to talk to someone who's on the inside right now than someone who just hypothetically may have worked there. So let's go
Okay.
ahead and choose one of these people, someone who's doing project management. So maybe we'll go with Rajan. And so if you want to reach out to Rajan and learn about his experience on the inside, how would you go about doing that?
Probably like DM him directly. Is that what should I be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. So you click connect, you click add a note. And now what are you going to say to him? What can we mention?
Probably something like, "Hey, I'm a student at San Jose State, and
Oh, just stop right there because you've nailed it, Praneeth. Now, why did you mention that? Why did you start with those first 5 words?
because that's the common connect here. Is that that's the reason I mentioned."
Exactly. And just to put it in a more humanistic context, when you were growing up, Praneeth, what did your parents tell you about talking to strangers?
Probably identify something that's common between us, or
Well, they probably
maybe
said, don't talk to strangers, right? They were like,
yeah,
hey, don't talk to random people.
right,
And,
yes,
and
yes,
what do you think? What do you think Rajan's parents told him when he was growing up?
something similar, yeah.
That's right. And now here he is 30 years later,
Mhm.
and you're a stranger reaching out of the blue. So he's so tempted to say delete or spam, but he's not going to do it because of those magical 5 words. In just 5 words, you've gone from being a stranger to a member of the same tribe. Go Spartans. And that's why it's so powerful to start there, because it deactivates his stranger force field. So now he's willing to listen. So what do you say next?
Um, okay. I really don't know what I should be saying in specific, but at the back of my mind, what I can think is I'm a current student, like pursuing whatever I am studying,
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
a master's in
who's
engineering management or
taking an
industrial
agile class
class.
that's got me really interested in PM, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because again, he's a PM, so you're
Mhm.
leading with more commonality.
This
Now,
okay.
here's a question for you. What is every human being's favorite topic of conversation? Like, do they prefer to talk about you or their company or something else?
Probably their achievements. I don't know.
Probably themselves, like
Okay.
Umama said, right? Their own story.
Yeah.
So let's give Rajan a chance to do that. So I'd love learn from your experience and journey. Now, what do you want from him? Do you want to just say, hey, let's connect? Or do you want something more specific?
Yeah, I want to know what it is to become like a product manager at Apple.
Yeah. So maybe we say, any chance you'd be open to a quick 10-minute Zoom chat? And look at that. In just 2 sentences, you've gone from a stranger who he was going to reject to a fellow traveler who he says, you know what? I'm busy, but 10 minutes is no problem, especially for a fellow Spartan. Let's chat.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now, Praneeth, we're almost there. One last question for you. What are you going to ask Rajan during this chat to find out if his path is the right one for you?
If his path is the right one for me.
Like, how can you learn from him about what PM is really like? What do you want to ask him?
Share him my experiences and ask him if that's valid. No.
Oh, for sure. You can say, like, this is what I think so far. Is that true of your experience? I love that. And by the way, everyone out there, if you've got ideas, let Praneeth know. Don't leave your fellow Spartan hanging here. Oh, and look what Angela said. What do you think about that?
Oh, okay. What's every day's work like? Okay.
Yeah. And why do you think that's such a powerful question, Praneeth?
Because that makes him feel that I'm very interested to get that role.
Not just interested, but also you need to know about that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let me give you 2 different scenarios.
Hmm.
Imagine that you ask Rajan about this, and he says, well, pretty much my day-to-day is all about coming up with new ideas, working with engineers and designers to sketch them out, and then turning them into reality. We're building, we're iterating, we're constantly pushing the envelope in terms of what's possible. If he tells you that, how does that feel to you, Praneeth?
Oh, yeah. I would know what I would be working on, and that would like help me cement if I'm really looking forward to take up that kind of a role.
Exactly. It's like ding, ding, ding. We have a match. Here's what I know about myself already from that agile class. Here's a chance to do it every day and get paid a lot of money for it.
Right.
What could be better than that, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
But imagine the other side of that coin. What if Rajan says, you know, being a PM is like being in an endless stream of meetings. I've got to meet with the engineers. Now I got to meet with the designers. Now I got to meet with the executives. Now I got to meet with the customers. I'm just in meetings from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every night, every day. It's an endless series of meetings. How does that feel?
For someone who's not interested, like in meetings, that would feel, very off. I mean, what would I be doing productive apart from just having meetings?
Exactly right. And so, is it better for you to discover that when you accept the job and when you're working on the company, or is it better to learn that lesson today?
Oh yeah, much before
Exactly, because you don't want to spend your whole life going down a road that isn't the right one for you. So Praneeth, I've got to thank you so much. You put yourself out there and you really brought this to life, this really critical lesson. So for that, I'm going to be sending you the book and all of my gratitude. Thank you so much, Praneeth.
Thanks a lot for your picking me. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and everyone sent a lot of Praneeth's way in the chat. Because again, it's a gutsy thing to do, but it really helps the session come alive. So I hope everyone follows in Praneeth's footsteps. Do your homework. Reach out to these amazing Spartans. Discover what that path is really like before you go down it. Okay, I want to ask you another question. Imagine now that you are a recruiter at Apple or at Google or any of these companies. How are you going to tell who is really a good fit for your roles? Is it A, the classes they took at San Jose State, B, the keywords on their profile, or C, the GPA they earned in those classes? So I see Harshini say B, Marcel say B, Pragati says B, Helen says B, everyone's saying B, and you have nailed it. The Spartans are on fire today. LinkedIn is nothing if not about keywords. And to prove it to you, let me show you a real example right from the inside of that black box. So here's LinkedIn Recruiter again. And I, the recruiter, am searching for a project manager in Chicago with these skill sets. And then look who's rising to the top of my screen. It's the people who have that exact job title right there at the very top of their profile. In the headline, in the headline, in the headline. And that is not an accident or even a coincidence. It is by design, my friends, because LinkedIn's engineers know one thing about job seekers. You and I, we're always looking for advantages, kind of sneaky little ways to get our foot in the door. And so sometimes we stuff lots of keywords into our profile or a resume. And the one way the engineers can guard against it is by giving extra weight in the LinkedIn search algorithm to the headline, because that's limited to only 160 characters. So it's harder to game, and it's a more authentic signal of who you really are. And so to build upon that first insight, I would love to give one lucky Spartan a free profile makeover, help you find your most important keywords, turn it into recruiter gold. All you've got to do is raise your hand, and Harshini, you are on it, my friend. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Harshini, how are you?
I'm good.
That's awesome. Harshini, what is the job title that you want to be found for?
I'm mostly looking for full stack and machine learning, as I mentioned before.
Oh, nice.
I'm open to both of the areas. So, yeah.
So full stack engineer, ML engineer, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do ML because that's such an exciting space.
Okay.
For those who don't know, and I had no idea what ML was when I was a student, it's machine learning. It's basic artificial intelligence at its most primal state. And so before we look at your profile, Harshini, let's imagine that I was a recruiter at Google or someplace like that, and I searched for machine learning engineer. Tell me this, and this is kind of like an AI thing for a human to do. Harshini,
yeah,
what is the common pattern between Key and Muchin and Vinaya and Torahan? What do they all have in common?
All of them have a machine learning job title.
Exactly. Machine learning right there in their headline, right?
Yeah.
And so just like AI is trying to recognize patterns, you recognize that pattern immediately. And so if you ever doubt how important the headline is, just run your own search and you'll see that it is crucial.
Yeah.
Okay. So Harshini, I'm going to pull up your profile now.
Okay.
Not to criticize it, but to shower it with love. Okay.
Okay.
And everyone, please root Harshini on, because again, I love the bravery here of the Spartan crew.
K-O-M-A-L-I.
Say that one more time, Harshini.
K-O-M. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, so here's Harshini's profile. Now, Harshini,
yeah,
given what we just talked about on the recruiter screen and even on LinkedIn itself, what do you want to immediately change about your headline?
Probably I would like to put looking for machine learning opportunities.
Exactly. Machine learning and maybe full stack as well, if you want to cover both of them.
Yeah.
And just by putting those two phrases right into your headline, what you're going to find, Harshini, is for the first time, recruiters may start reaching out to you because you're going to be on their radar screen. Like that's the most critical first step.
Yeah, makes sense.
I want to just call out one thing. Harshini, are you already an ML engineer today?
No.
No, and so Harshini is not saying I'm a machine learning engineer automatically, but she says I'm looking for them.
Yep.
And just using that phrase is equivalent in the mind of the algorithm to ML engineer or future ML engineer. It's all the same. Just get your most important keyword into your most important section. Thank you for demonstrating that, Harshini.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's come back to our search here. Harshini, how steep is your competition in terms of the ML engineering space? How many people are you up against?
Probably thousands, 10,000.
Yeah, it turns out over 200,000 at last counts, right?
Yeah.
So pretty steep competition. But the same thing that's a challenge for you is also a challenge for recruiters. You know, again, no recruiter has the time to spend on 200,000 profiles.
Yeah.
So what do? They come to skills and they say, well, I know there are a lot of ML engineers out there, but show me the people with the right skills. Maybe Python or R or whatever.
Sorry.
And so the question for you, Harshini, is if you wanted to find the most important skills, not just secondhand, but directly from the recruiters, where would you look, Harshini? And I'll tell you a little hint. Recruiters are giving you these skills every day on LinkedIn. Where do you think that is?
In the job section.
Exactly, the job descriptions. So if we look into the specific jobs here, what we'll discover is inside these jobs, let me just change the search to United States. Inside these jobs, like for example, at TikTok, there's going to be all this fluff about TikTok is a leading destination. We inspire creativity. We bring joy, blah, blah, blah. But down below are the things that actually matter, right? Python, Golang, C Sharp, entrepreneurship, coding competitions, all that good stuff. So what if I could grant you the superpower of X-ray vision, Harshini, so you could see through all the fluff and just focus on the keywords that matter? Would you be interested?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's do it. So check this out. I love this site called jobscan.co.
Okay.
And the reason for it is it gives you a chance to look inside that black box to understand what's happening behind the scenes. And so every single time a recruiter runs their search, LinkedIn is doing a simple pattern match between Harshini's profile and the most important keywords in the job description.
Okay.
And so what we're going to do here, Harshini, is we're going to grab all those job descriptions. And by the way, Harshini, as a savvy ML engineer, do you want a small data set or a large data set?
A large data set.
Exactly, because as everyone in AI knows, the more data you have, the better patterns you can develop.
Yep.
So let's grab, TikTok and Intuit, maybe a couple different roles, just so we make sure we're covering the whole industry.
Okay.
And then we're going to run our scan. And the beautiful thing about JobScan is LinkedIn is doing the same thing, where it's giving you a match rate, which determines where you fit on the screen. But unlike LinkedIn, JobScan will tell you the truth,
Okay.
both what your match rate is today, and most importantly, what's driving it. Why is that match rate low?
Okay.
So in the job description, there are things like engineering and machine learning that Harshini has, but there are also things like coding, computer science, analytics, highly scalable, that Harshini does not have today.
Okay.
So now here's the big question, Harshini. Have you ever done coding, computer science, analytics, or anything that's highly scalable?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about a time that you did that.
Okay, so coding. So I generally compete in Lead Code weekly contests,
Yeah.
and So when it comes to like, yeah,
Leveraging computer science expertise.
yeah,
And you can see what I'm doing here, right?
yep,
What am I trying to fit into this bullet?
the keywords which are in the job description.
Yeah, leveraging computer science expertise to develop highly scalable solutions.
Yep.
And there we go. In one single bullet, we have 3 different keywords, right?
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen to your match rate, Harshini, when you start to include those in your profile? Which way is it going to go?
It is going to increase.
Going to increase. And then where's your profile going to go on the recruiter screen when your match rate goes up?
It'll be in the top search results.
It's going to go to the top of the list. And that's where you want to be, right? That's where the recruiters look.
Yep.
So with that said, Harshini, would you mind, and I know this is a big thing to ask because you already have so much homework at San Jose State, would you mind if I gave you one more homework assignment if I told you it might be the most important homework you ever do?
Yeah, I would be interested.
Okay. Harshini's like, okay, this is a trap, but I promise you, it's really critical. And you can guess what it is, which is I want you to take all these keywords
Okay.
and I want you to get credit for the ones you have because I know you have so many awesome skills. You're just not getting that credit today.
Okay.
And if you can do that, you are going to be off to the races and be right on that critical radar screen.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Harshini. You have really helped bring this to life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the tips.
Of course, my pleasure. And everyone, send Harshini a ton of love in the chat because she has just shown you what it takes, which is not rocket science, by the way. You don't even have to be a machine learning engineer to understand LinkedIn. All you have to recognize is that some words matter more than others. So the job title, the skills, and then once you know what those words are, go right back to your profile, right back to your resume, and start incorporating them. And just to be clear, Harshini can put them in so many places. Obviously, her experience section, she can list those, but also her education section, her about section, and probably the easiest thing of all is her skills section. She can just list all those skills right there and get credit tomorrow. Okay, let me pause for a moment. I know typically there are lots of questions about profiles like, hey, Jeremy, I just got on LinkedIn. Do I need to have a cover photo? What about my headshot? How should that look? Or the about section? Or what about LinkedIn endorsements? If you've got any questions about any of those things or anything else, just raise your hand on Zoom or ask it in the chat. And again, everyone who asks a question today will also get a free copy of the book. And one thing that I've noticed from my own school experience is so many times we're afraid to ask the questions because we don't want to look bad in front of our friends. But everyone, I promise you, has the same questions in the back of their mind. And so when you ask a question, you're doing a huge benefit for your classmates. So let's go over to Christine. Christine, what's your question?
My question, I know a lot of us have like gotten started or like made a LinkedIn, maybe just heard of it, is how do you utilize LinkedIn in terms of like job seeking? Because I know we're going over it right now, but like I've only really heard about it and said, and like I've been told like, oh, this is good for job seeking and stuff, but never really told of the process of how you can accomplish it.
Great question, Christine. So let me actually go through that process real quick because it's actually not that complicated, but can be a little hidden at first. So when you're ready to apply for jobs, similar to other job boards, you come right over here to the job section. And Christine, what kind of jobs are you excited about?
Working with students, like in terms of tutoring, higher education, counseling.
Tutor or counseling, I love that, or counselor. Anywhere in particular? Like, do you want to stay in San Jose? Do you want to be somewhere else?
I want to stay in the Bay Area, so in a sense, San Jose, the campus, San Jose, or like Mission College.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you looking for internships, for full-time jobs?
Both.
Both. Okay, cool. So you can do that too. So internships, entry level, show those results. And here are those jobs, right? Blueprint Math Fellow Tutor, Associate Teacher, all these great things. And you can start applying for them. However, in the next section, I'm going to show you a way to really increase your odds 10x over someone who only applies online. Okay? So hold that question for 1 second, Christine, because I know a lot of students stop here, but if you go one extra step, it's going to be so worth your while. Okay? Great question, Christine. Okay, let's go over to Umama. Umama, what's on your mind?
Hi. So I just had a very quick question. So I have a lot of leadership roles on campus, but I wanted to ask, like, should I add my leadership roles under volunteering or under my experiences? What section?
Such a good question. So one thing that I would recommend, this is a really advanced question you're asking, is put yourself into the recruiter's shoes. You can probably imagine that given that recruiters are only spending 6 seconds on these profiles, are you going to scroll all the way down to the volunteer section? Probably not, right? So the best thing you can do at this stage before you have a lot of work experience is put it as high up as you can, right there under work experience. And that way, even if a recruiter is really busy, they still see it and you still get credit, okay?
Thank you so much.
Awesome question, Mama. I love that. Okay, Marcel, what's on your mind?
Hi, I actually have 2 questions.
Yeah,
the first one is I already have a lot of work experience, and I'm not sure how I should rank it. Should I start like with the most important one, or should I do it like with the latest experience and then go on like this?
Here, let me speak to that one real quick, Marcel, and then we'll come back to your second question. So you really don't have much of a choice here because LinkedIn, like your standard resume, automatically sorts in chronological order. So your most recent roles appear at the top, your most distant roles appear at the bottom. What's more important than the sorting order, however, is what you put under those roles. So the biggest mistake that I see students make is they spend a lot of time working on their resume, but they don't put those resume bullets onto LinkedIn. And why is that a big issue, Marcel? What does that algorithm crave that we talked about before?
If you don't have the bullet points, the algorithm can't find, like, for example, like certain skill sets or
can't find the keywords, right?
The keywords,
Yeah, partner marketing, SEO, content marketing, whatever your keywords are. So please, at a bare minimum, get your bullet points from your resume right onto LinkedIn where they can be searched over 1 million times a day. What's your second question, Marcel?
The second question is maybe not a LinkedIn question. It's just like, would you recommend to write a motivation letter if you apply somewhere on LinkedIn, or would you just send a resume?
Yeah, and you're speaking specifically of a cover letter, is that right?
A cover letter, yeah.
Yeah. So it's such an interesting thing because as a hiring manager myself at Khan Academy, I like to read cover letters. That being said, a lot of people never read them or they just skim them really quickly. So rather than spending time on cover letters, I'm going to show you in the next step the same thing that I was mentioning to Christine, which is a way to dramatically increase your odds mathematically based on all the best data. And that's going to be more important than even the best cover letter in the world. Okay, Marcel? So stay
Yeah.
tuned for that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good. Great question. Okay, let's go to Laura. Laura, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
Doing awesome. What's on your mind, Laura?
So I have a questions in regards to LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
I know little about it, but I know that there are a lot of courses available. So my question is, my major at the moment is public health, but I'm more interested in HR technology. So from your experience, would LinkedIn Learning get you in the door to some of these jobs are available?
Yeah, great question. And so, Laura, just remind me, because I forget, does San Jose State have free access to LinkedIn Learning?
I believe we do.
And yeah, I think that is the case. Sandra, I don't know if you're still on, let us know.
Yes, students do have access to LinkedIn Learning, and they actually have access even 1 year post-graduation.
Ooh, that's really cool. Okay, so in that case, because I didn't want you to pay out of pocket for something if you didn't already have access, but given that you have free access, I think it's a great way to fill in the skills that you might not necessarily be learning in your classes. And here's what I mean. Like, I know there are amazing classes at San Jose State on pretty much every major discipline in the world, from astronomy to zoology, but you may not have a class on some cutting edge technical skill. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to learn about machine learning because you felt like that was something that was coming up in job interviews or job descriptions. You could take, a 10-hour course or even a 1-hour course just to learn just enough. So that way, when you walk into that interview, you feel knowledgeable and confident. And I think that's the perfect sweet spot, Laura. Like, don't take a whole nother degree or spend, $50,000 on something when you can learn just enough to be dangerous. Does that make sense, Laura?
Yeah, definitely. It does. Thank you for that.
Great question. Okay, we're gonna take 2 more questions and then we're gonna move on to the next section. Let's go to Helen and then Harshini. Go for it, Helen.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay, I have a question. I was wondering, how can you utilize LinkedIn when you don't have much of a working experience? Because I have a few volunteers and programs that I joined in the past, and I was wondering, how can I add more depth or appear more presentable to recruiters or internship programs, since I am planning to apply some in the future?
So I have some great news for you, Helen. When I was at LinkedIn, I did a survey of recruiters and I asked them, does volunteer work even matter to you? You know what they said, Helen? 40% of all recruiters said volunteer work was on par with paid work in terms of importance. And that should tell you that you can't just say, oh, it's volunteer, it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. And so just like we were talking about before, don't feel like you have to have it locked away in that volunteer section. Feel free to move it to the experience section and be really loud and proud. And just to be really clear, don't just say, hey, I was a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. Fill out the bullet points. Tell us what you did, what skills you used. Because it turns out a lot of things you do as a volunteer would actually make you a great employee as well. So get credit for those keywords anywhere they apply. And that goes for volunteer work as well as stuff you do on campus, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I also have another question.
Yeah.
That's okay. Another question is, how can you make your introduction or bio a lot more interesting? Because I wasn't too sure on what to add. And
Yeah.
I just created LinkedIn not too long ago. So.
Yeah. And this is really a big problem for LinkedIn because they don't really help you understand, what matters. The Christine says, how can we appeal to others? So this is what you're talking about, right, Helen? This about section?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best way to deal with any section on LinkedIn is always think about your 2 audiences, both the recruiter and the algorithm. So first of all, the recruiter cares about, how can I find someone who's awesome in just 6 seconds, right, Helen? That's their challenge. And so rather than give them 1,000 bullet points, why not give them 3 really crisp bullet points that show off what you can do that's relevant for the role? And that way they can sleep easy at night because they know that Helen's going to make them look good. That's the thing you can do for the recruiter. For the algorithm, it's even simpler. It doesn't care about bullets or highlights or whatever. All it cares about is keywords. So take your most important keywords right out of the job description, right out of job scan, and just list them right there on your about section where the algorithm can find them. Okay, Helen?
Mhm.
By
Thank
the way,
you so much.
as a little bonus to Helen for asking such a good question, I'm going to paste my about section into the chat for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's a template that you can use. And number 2, if you want to have those same bullet points appear on your profile, if you paste them in from my profile, they will automatically appear on yours. So you have that nice formatting to help the busy recruiter. Okay, let's go to our last question. We're going to take Harshini for now, and then we're going to come back to Aaron at the end of the session. Harshini, what's your question?
Yeah, so I understand that this is like optimizing our LinkedIn for recruiters to search for us, but like I would be applying for jobs like in the job portals. So how would my like so in there would be a section to include my LinkedIn profile URL there. So like would that matter? So like would when I apply for the job in the job application, so would the recruiters look up at the LinkedIn profile? So in that way, would the LinkedIn profile optimization matter?
Yeah, and one thing I should be really clear about is that the LinkedIn profile optimization also applies to resumes. Because it turns out, Harshini, that whether you're being evaluated by the LinkedIn algorithm or by the software that companies use when you apply online, it's the same exact process. Looking for keywords, trying to see if there's a match with the job description. And so if you can make sure that both your profile and your resume are really optimized around those keywords, it's going to be effective in both scenarios, okay?
Okay.
Good question. Okay, so this is a perfect segue to our last segment, which is how do you really stand out when you apply? So last question for you. If you were a recruiter, again, at Apple or Google or wherever, you've got 3 really strong candidates, but only 1 interview slot. Who are you going to pick? Is it A, the person who applied online, B, the person who came from LinkedIn, or C, the person who earned a referral? So please, please, please let us know, A, B, or C in the chat, who's getting that final interview slot. So I see Pragati says C, Praneeth says C, Arcelli says C, Angela says C. Everyone is saying C. And for one last time, San Jose State has nailed it. Look at this data. When you see who is applying for jobs in America, unsurprisingly, almost 3/4 or exactly 3/4 are coming in online, career sites and job boards. And of course, we all get it. It's easy, right? It's easy to apply online. The only problem is those same people are not being hired very often, which immediately should set those alarm bells off because this is a losing game. You don't want to play a losing game. And yet, in the upper right-hand corner, you see this tiny minority of candidates, 7% of people being referred, and yet they're taking up the vast plurality of all offers, the one thing that actually matters. That seems like a much better game and is in fact 10 times more effective than just applying online. So the only question at this point is if you want to ultimately get that referral, how do you do it? So if you are feeling brave and you want that last copy of the LinkedIn book, all you've got to do is raise your hand right now and be my awesome volunteer to show everybody this critical step. How do you earn that referral? And I see that Saishri was first this time. So Saishri, feel free to unmute, turn on your webcam if you can. I can't wait to chat. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
And how do you pronounce your first name?
He.
Oh, he, my apologies. Okay.
Yeah.
So he, tell me this. What is a job that so many Spartans would love to get, but that is super selective?
If someone who is working in that organization, I will approach them. I mean, I will
Well, hold on 1 second. Just tell me the name of a company that a lot of San Jose State students would love to work at, but that's really hard to get into.
Google.
Google, of course, the big G. And I
Yeah.
actually had a job at Google several years ago. How do you think I got hired there, Heath?
If you are willing to enter into the tech stack, tech roles, so you should have the problem solve. If you should able to do, you are able to do the problem solving.
Uh-oh, but I didn't have those technical skills and I still got hired at Google. What do you think gave me that big advantage? Check out what Pragati said in the chat.
Referral.
A referral, of course. And how do you think everyone on my team got a job at Google?
By the referral.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be silly about it, but it is that important and that powerful. And the data is so clear there, right? Like you would much rather be this person up here versus this person down here. So let's help you find a referral at Google. And I have some really good news for you, but also some bad news as well. Check this out. If you come to the Google page on LinkedIn, the good news is there are 300,000 Googlers today. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? I had no idea it's that big. So 300,000 people who can refer you. But what's the bad news, He?
I'm not sure about the bad news.
The bad news is just there's a lot of people to look through, right? You're a busy student. You don't have time to go through all those people.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to filter for just someone who has a lot in common with you, what would you filter for?
I'd filter. I mean, I will look into the who are doing in that the particular role.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the role that you want to have, He?
Front-end developer.
Front-end developer. Okay, so beautiful. So we'll come to all filters. We'll put in title equals front end, and we'll show results. Okay, now we have 133 people. So a few too many people still. What if we filtered for San Jose State? How does that sound?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Let's do a filter for San Jose State. I'm going to add that right over here. Show results. And this time I'm actually going to change one thing, which I'm going to move. The problem is you don't always know if front end is the way that Google describes it or not. I'm going to move front end up here to the search results. And sure enough, here are some people at Google who went to San Jose State who have front end on their profile. So here's Jose. He's an engineering manager at Google, went to the greatest school in the world, and he comes from a front end background. If you wanted to get in touch with Jose, how are you going to go about doing that, He? Let me put it this way. If you reach out to Jose the way we were talking about at the beginning, where like you reach out and say, hey, I'm a fellow Spartan, I'd love to chat with you. What do you think the chances that he responds?
Initially, I send the invitation to him.
Right, so if you do that, what are the odds that he responds to you?
Initially, I will describe about myself, like about myself and my technical details.
Yeah.
And I will attach my resume.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you this: if you write to him directly and you attach your resume, it might be a little bit of a turnoff because he says, "Whoa, here's a stranger reaching out. He's putting his resume in my face." That's a little bit too aggressive. But let me show you an alternative. Let's see if anyone can figure this out. There is a way to get in touch with Jose that you can see on the screen right now that gives you a 100% chance of getting through. Guaranteed. Can anyone figure out what that is? If you see it, let us know in the chat. How can we get in touch with Jose and he'll feel absolutely certain that he wants to talk to us? Okay, I know this is a tricky one, but one of the beautiful things from LinkedIn is it doesn't just show you who went to the same school, it shows you who else knows that person that you know. So in this case, I used to work with Michael. Michael knows Jose. What's going to happen if Michael introduces us directly to Jose? Is he going to be willing to chat with us? What do you think? Absolutely, right? Like that's the power of relationships. If you have someone who says, hey, he is this amazing engineer, you have to talk to him, he's a total rock star, and Jose is a good friend of Michael's, you can be absolutely assured. Jose says, no problem, connect us today. Exactly like Christine said, it's a mutual friend. So now you have a chance to chat with Jose. What are you going to talk to him about? Okay, so just to be really clear, you can start off the same way that we talked about before, which is you're focused on learning from his experience, what brought him to Google. But at some point, Jose says, you know what? I have a big presentation to make to Sundar in a few minutes. I've got to run. It was nice chatting with you. Good luck with your application. What can you say before he hangs up the phone? And if anyone knows, let us know in the chat. Don't leave he hanging here.
Can I use you as a referral?
Ah, there we go, Diana. I love that. Being brave, being bold is important in everything in life, but especially job seeking. And so if you say to Jose, hey, before you run, could I just ask you for a quick favor? If I share my resume with you after the conversation, would you mind referring me? And Diane, let's see if you know this. What will Jose get at Google if he is hired based on his referral? Any guesses?
You will get a bonus.
Remuneration?
Yeah, referral bonus. And this is kind of crazy, but referrals are so important to companies because referred candidates are more likely to accept the job, to stay longer, to be a more effective employee, that they will pay anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 to people who make a successful referral. So it's absolutely in Jose's interest to make that referral, which is why I want he and all Spartans to be bold and go for that thing that gives you a 10x advantage. Okay, I know you have a ton of questions about referrals, LinkedIn, and the job search in general. So here's what I want to do. First of all, a massive shout out to he for being an incredible volunteer today. I will be sending you a copy of my book shortly. In the meantime, I want to do two things. Number one, if you've got any final questions, get ready to ask them by raising your hand on Zoom or chatting them in right now. I'm happy to stay on the line as long as you like to make sure your questions are answered. And number two, I'm going to share some bonus goodies with you, courtesy of your incredible San Jose State team. So first of all, quick reminder, I know that school is so busy. I know you have so much homework. I don't want you to spend 1,000 hours working on these things when there are only 3 steps that matter. Number one, if you're not sure where you belong in the working world, how is a recruiter going to help you get there? Start by talking to San Jose State alumni, find the right path for you. And then once you have that path in your head, don't leave it stuck there because not even LinkedIn's AI can do ESP today. Instead, get it onto your profile in the form of keywords, your job title in your headline, all of your skills down below. And then finally, if you do nothing else, do your future self the biggest favor possible, which is getting a referral, aka a 10x head start down to your dream job. And to get you there, 3 bonus goodies. Number one, I would love to connect with every single Spartan from today's session. So please send me a connection request on LinkedIn. And just in that little message, remind me how we connected. And if I owe you a free book, mention that too. I'll send it over this afternoon. Number two, if you ever want a free LinkedIn profile review, I can help you with that. And then third, and most importantly, you have access to the only LinkedIn masterclass in the world designed by LinkedIn insiders. And it's yours free, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 40, for the entirety of your career, courtesy of your amazing team. So please send a big shout out to Sandra and everyone at San Jose State who's bringing you that awesome opportunity, and you can grab it in the chat. Okay, with all that said, let's start with some questions. So Aaron, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. What's on your mind?
Hi, no problem. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this webinar. I find it really, really helpful. I'm actually a graduate student in the Library and Information Science school, and this is a career change for me. So my question is, how do you apply some of your past experience to future jobs if you might not have the exact experience, but you can be creative with it. So I'm wondering how to apply that past experience to future jobs in a career you have not had.
Yeah, I
much
love that
experience
Aaron
in.
question, Aaron, because that is the essence of career change, right? How do I make sure that I'm not stuck in the past, but I'm able to move into the future? So tell me this, Aaron, what did you do before coming back to grad school?
A lot of stuff.
Okay.
I've worked in education, teaching English, marketing, um, customer service, retail, and now I actually have a job in a library, which is awesome to be able to see that and have it also coincide with my courses. So my future jobs would be looking for librarian positions or archival positions as well. So like working in a museum or working in a special library.
I love that. And so I can guess, even without going to those job descriptions, they're going to say things like, you must be incredibly organized, great project manager, great communicator, all the things that are going to make you effective both internally and with the public, right? So then I look back at educator, teacher, marketer, customer service, and I'm thinking, what did you have to do in those roles? But be organized, manage projects, communicate. And so the critical thing is, once you do job scan, once you look at those job descriptions, some of the language may seem a little bit like wonky because every world has its own kind of arcane lingo.
Right.
But underneath the surface, you're going to be like, you know what they really mean? What they really mean is someone who's organized or someone who's a good communicator. And it's up to you to make that translation. So let me give you an example here. Again, my own story is very similar because I started as a teacher and I moved into tech marketing. And after applying and getting nowhere for years and years, what I finally did is I went back and I rewrote all my old bullet points based on the world I wanted to go into. So for example, at Teach for America, at first it was all about, education, helping kids, blah, blah, blah. And then in the world of tech marketing, it was about word of mouth marketing campaigns and generating record-breaking increases, speaking the language of marketing even before I was in that space. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, definitely it's a little bit tough at first, but then it becomes a fun challenge, which is, hey, if I know what the lingo is, can I find that match and build a bridge from where I've been to where I want to go next? Good luck out there, Aaron.
Thank you.
Great question. Let's go to Avra. Avra.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any recent job experience. It's all very old. What can I do to stand out and market myself well?
Yeah, good question. So one thing that I love on LinkedIn, this is brand new, is obviously you can list new experiences, but you can also add career breaks. So first of all, if you're ever concerned like, hey, how do I represent time out of the workforce? No matter what it was, LinkedIn now has a way to do that in a really beautiful, well-formatted way. So it's not just like, hey, I was gone for 10 years. So that's the first thing I want you to do. And then the second thing is, when you think of all of your past experience, don't worry about like, oh, the lingo was different or it was a different time. Again, just like I was sharing with Aaron, think about all that Venn diagram overlap between what you might have done 10 years ago and what you want to do next year. And if you can identify where that intersection is, you can start to pull that language in and get credit for it at the keyword level. So for you, Avra, what is the job that you want to have next?
I want to be an advocate for people with disabilities or people with special medical needs who aren't able to advocate for themselves in the medical system.
Love that. Such important work. And what did you do, before you were out of the workforce for a little while?
Oh, I did secretarial and customer service, and I was an occupational therapy assistant intern, but I wasn't paid for it.
Okay.
And I think that's about it.
So first of all, you should chat with Christine because Christine's in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have folks to support each other because I know that career change can be tough.
Yeah.
But again, I would say that if I think about like secretarial or customer service roles, a lot of it is about empathy, right? You have to understand your stakeholders. You have to understand the person on the other side of the phone. And to be a really great advocate, you have to understand the people you're advocating for because you're going to be their voice. They can't advocate for themselves. So again, trying to weave in those themes of empathy and helping sort of provide communication, provide presence and marketing communication, that's going to be really powerful for you in making your case. Okay.
Okay.
Great question. I wish you good luck, Avra. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. Can you repeat the name of your book?
Oh, for sure. It's called Linked.
great.
So pretty much close to LinkedIn itself without getting sued.
Okay, and those of us who ask a question can get a copy, right?
Yeah, so just shoot me a little message on LinkedIn. Again, here's
Thanks.
my link in the chat. And if you just
Wonderful.
drop in, hey, I asked you that question about getting into advocacy work, I'm happy to send it over within the next hour. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You got it. Great questions. Okay. I think there might be one or two final questions in the chat. So Pragati says, I do not understand why some recruiters approach me on LinkedIn for completely unrelated job roles. I thought it was because of one non-tech experience I wrote in my profile. I want to know if it's actually a factor. Yeah, this is the dark side of LinkedIn, Pragati, is that because recruiters only have your profile to go on, anything that you serve them there, even if it was a job from long ago, can start to define you. And so your job, Pragati, is to curate your profile, removing all the stuff that's irrelevant and only focusing on the stuff that leads you into your next job. Because otherwise, maybe you get typecast as, oh, Pragati was, X, Y, and Z before, therefore they're going to want to do it again. Whereas if you prune that away and just focus on the future, you can make sure that you're only found for the jobs that you actually want. That's how you avoid being typecast. And then Aaron says, what's your opinion on sharing our student work on LinkedIn? Oh, it's essential, Aaron, especially for folks who haven't had that much, in the workforce experience. Like a lot of times I will see blank profiles on LinkedIn and students will tell me, Jeremy, I don't have any work experience. Therefore, I have a blank profile. And I say, well, what about those clubs you led? What about that class you aced? What about that volunteer work you did on the weekend? Again, to my mind, all that is totally valid work experience. And recruiters back me up on that based on that survey I shared with you. So never be in that imposter syndrome position, Aaron, of saying, oh, I'm a student, therefore it doesn't count. It all counts. All keywords are created equally. If you can get it onto LinkedIn in your about section, your work experience, your education, your volunteering, it all matters. And you are absolutely right, Christine. So many times it feels like the message is, hey, call me when you have that experience. But if you want to break through that catch-22, you've got to lead with that. Be confident in what you've done. You've worked hard to get here. Don't let anyone tell you you don't belong. Great call out. Okay, on that note, I want to bring back to our amazing MC, Sandra. Sandra, any final words of wisdom for our rockstar students today?
Hi, Jeremy. Well, I think you covered a lot of great tips and information with our students that I think will help them to leverage their LinkedIn profile as they're searching for jobs. I would just reiterate the importance of, making professional connections with alumni or professionals in your field, and definitely using LinkedIn to your advantage to make those connections, because as Jeremy shared, if you build those relationships with those professionals in your field down the line, they could be someone that, help you with your own job or internship search, or even provide a referral. But it does require, building that relationship and seeking out those connections. I also would just like to point out that aside from LinkedIn, San Jose State also has our own kind of mentorship platform called SJSU Squared. And you can find it on our website, where you can connect with professionals and or alumni. And these are typically people that, are on the platform because they've shared that they want to give back and connect with students. So aside from LinkedIn, I think to expand sort of your connections or reaching out to individuals, you can also use SJC Squared.
Cool. Well, I got to thank you again. Everyone, please send one last burst of love to Sandra for bringing you this session today and all the amazing sessions this week. A huge shout out to our volunteers. I would never have been gutsy enough to put my hand up back when I was in school, but I love that you brought this session to life for everyone. And just a final thank you to everyone. I know you have a million things going on in your life, but just remember, you've got the team and Sandra, you've got the tools with LinkedIn and SJ Squared, and you've got incredible opportunities out there. So go big, go far, and wherever you go Spartans. Good luck, everyone.